Cuba, it's me. Welcome to episode 202 of the W.I.L.L.I.W show, which stands for Wrestling is Life. Life is Wrestling. Now today, on this episode, I wanted to talk about steroids in wrestling. Now, I know times have changed. It's definitely different now. But when I first broke in 2000, steroids were actually pretty rampant back in the time. See, I know WWF started testing after the whole steroid trial in '95, but the whole thing was, if you were an indie wrestler, it was looked at as almost something you had to do. If you were truly passionate and you truly cared about getting to the next level, if you weren't willing to do steroids, then you just weren't willing to do what it took. That's kind of the impression people would give you. And it was like, okay, make your body look great until you got signed, and then you could cut it off. But I mean, not just steroids, any kind of like performance enhancing. People were trying to do whatever they could to get bigger. And like when I first came in, I was 18, 130 pounds. So immediately everyone was telling me I had to put on size. I had to put on size. But one, I was scared of steroids. At two, I had no money, so it didn't really work out for me. And so I would try and do everything else, whatever the boys, like I had a lot of great mentors that would try and help me put on weight, and I would take the protein powders and eat just like the rice and chicken and raw eggs and work out the proper way. And being 18, not even done growing yet, and my metabolism hadn't caught up to me yet, it was really hard to put on weight, especially when you're working a 12-hour shift on your feet all day long, and you don't have that much money for food either, and then you go home and then you wrestle for 3 hours and you get like 5 hours sleep. It's really hard to put on weight. It's almost like a full-time job. You need to almost like not have a job and just focus on being in the gym and putting on weight and going to wrestling practice. But for my experience, yes, I did see quite a bit of steroids, and people were pretty open with it back then. It wasn't looked at as a bad thing. It was looked at as you were trying to do what it took, and people admired that about you, that you were sacrificing everything. And I got approached about steroids by Ike Shaw, who, ironically enough, when we first, like for me anyway, when we first came to school, there was no steroids, no drugs, nothing allowed. Well, after I wrestled my first match, it turned from ICW to ACW, Ike Shaw said to me, well, you know, Elian, I'm not going to let you wrestle until you get on the roids and get bigger. And I was like, I thought we weren't allowed steroids. He's like, that's just when I was feeling you out. I like to make sure, he's like, I like to make sure you don't get them from anyone else but me. And I'm like, well, sorry, Ike, I don't have any money left after you took my tuition and $1,200 for wrestling insurance that didn't exist. And I'm trying to pay back my mom. I'm in debt. So that didn't go over well. But steroids were pretty rampant. I noticed now I don't see it. Not saying that it's not there. I just don't see a lot of it, as maybe people keep that to themselves, or they're doing the more modern ways of doing it. There's a lot of great ways to gain weight nowadays, and a lot more knowledge about it out there about gaining weight. I mean, you could just go on the internet and find out almost everything you need to know about getting bigger and eating right and what to work out, how to work out for size. So yeah, back in the day there was quite a lot, and I didn't have anything against anyone else doing steroids. I just looked at it like they were really giving this a go, and they were doing what they were told to do to get bigger, because it was even said back in the day, Vince would suggest, oh, you gotta get a bigger body, but he wouldn't say get steroids, but you know how it goes. So back in the day, yeah, it wasn't frowned upon. It was looked at like you were investing in yourself and you really cared about being in this business. And a lot of people looked down on me because I wasn't willing to do it. And, well, one, like I said, lack of money, and I was just too scared of all the side effects, to being a little young, naive kid and not knowing, wasn't very educated about it too. So maybe if I would have went and got educated, but I would do the protein powders and like the creatine and stuff like that. And I really tried to get bigger. I made a go of it, but it wasn't my scene also. So I wasn't interested in working out. I was just doing it because it was part of the job, right? But I think it also has to be a passion. Like, it's something you gotta think about constantly and whatnot. And yeah, back in the day, people were doing steroids, and I'm not gonna be the name dropping guy. I'm not doing that. That's everybody else's own story. And I don't wanna be exposing, and some people are my friends, and some people I maybe didn't like at all, but it's just, I'm not going to be doing name dropping on this show. But yeah, I saw a lot of it, and just being in the locker rooms, hearing the guys discuss it, like, oh, this cycle, and which one was better, and who to get it from, because no one wanted to get it from Mike Shaw, because who knows if that was actually steroids or not. It probably wasn't anyway. He was just scamming to get the money. But yeah, so steroids were back in 2000. But they were slowly dying off. And once, if you made it to the WWE, you couldn't take them anyway. So it was just almost like get yourself big so you could get signed, and then it didn't really matter anymore. See, I do have a lot of knowledge about them just from hearing other people talk about them in the locker rooms and the cars and stuff like that. And it's hard to say what my opinion is on them. Like, to this day, I still wouldn't take them. There's no point now being 35 years old, and it doesn't seem worth it. But I understand why a lot of people did it, and for some of them, they made the right choice. And I don't have anything negative to say about them for doing it. Look at the 80s when all the wrestlers were doing it, so it wasn't their fault. People were just following suit or doing what the old timers were telling them to do, and who are they to disagree when you're being told by someone who's been in the business and made it places, this is the way to go about it. So, that was just par for the course back then, but it's slowly phased out, and I don't see a lot of it now. People are smart now, they know what to eat, they know what to take, they know what's legal, what's not illegal. And that's just the way I see it. I just thought it was an interesting topic that I haven't really covered. But, in indie wrestling now, there's a lot of smaller guys. I mean, a lot of these small guys have really good physiques. I'm not saying that. But I don't see it. Maybe there is. I could be completely blind. I'm not with the in circle of all the good wrestlers and nowadays and stuff like that. Maybe there's something else they found that works just as well as steroids. I mean, this is 17 years later, and things are constantly evolving and changing. There's probably a better way than steroids, maybe even now. And I know with steroids, like, you go up and then you go down, like, so it's like a cycle. So maybe they found something that's longer lasting. I don't know, but I just felt it was an interesting topic that I haven't covered, and I want to hear what your opinion. Have you noticed any steroids in wrestling? You think that's just in the old days and it's completely washed out now? Because always on the W.I.L.L.I.W show, like, or you get a leg drop, comment, or you get a clothesline, subscribe, or you get a suplex. I'm your host, Elian Habanero. I love wrestling. Cuba.